Hi everyone, I am Alex Lacasse, and I was not really wanting to make this video for a really long time because I didn't think it looked super sexy or glamorous, but I think realistically a lot of things in cooking are not sexy and glamorous. Even more so the things that are about sort of saving bits and scraps that normally would be forgotten about and probably tossed. So I want to show you how I make my stock. At home, a chicken and a pork stock. At home, mostly made with veggie and meat scraps. I've made quite a few stocks in my restaurant days. In restaurant production, it's always you buy specific meat and specific vegetables for specific stocks. But when it comes down to it, at home, I think it's extremely different. Actually, about a year ago, at the beginning of the pandemic, my friend Sarah showed me how she freezes her veggie scraps and her meat scraps and then turns them into stocks, which I think is just a brilliant idea. You can't ferment everything. So I think doing this has been essential to like my stock production at home. And I have a ton of meat scraps and veggie scraps in front of me, and I'm going to start by addressing the meat scraps because they have to roast, so we're going to do that first. So I'm going to be making two types of stocks today. I have a lot of chicken bone scraps and a lot of beef and pork. To me, beef and pork have like sort of similar bone density, so they're cooking a lot longer than the chicken. But first and foremost, we'll be roasting all the bone scraps. I like to keep my veggie raw and the bones all roasted. I really appreciate the flavor of caramelized meat protein. For the chicken, I have necks. I have chicken carcasses from like a roast chicken dinner and a lot of wing tips. You have like a wing dinner, you just cut off the tip and save those. I save them all together. For the chicken, I'm gonna add some chicken feet, which depending on where you live may not be the easiest thing to find, but in LA, any good Latin or Asian grocery store will carry them, and they are ridiculously affordable, $2.50, and they add the best amount of collagen to your stock, the texture and the flavor. So that's why I'm using chicken feet. $2 of chicken feet will go on my tray, and we'll roast those in a second. All dry, no oil. And then for the beef and pork, I have some bone marrow bones that I've saved and a nice huge ribeye bone from previous dinners. And to this, I'm gonna add another $3 of bone. Those are just pork bones, once again from like a nice Latin grocery store, and those are going on it as well. Ideally not too crowded, but these are the trays I'm dealing with today, so that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to put those in the oven at 450 for probably 30 minutes until they're deeply caramelized. On to the vegetables. If you have learned a classical way of making stocks, this is gonna make you angry, but it's okay. This is nothing like a traditional onion, carrot, celery type of stock. These are just all bits and pieces of scraps of vegetable that I have saved and froze beforehand. And you'll see there's really nothing fancy about this. We have a lot of herb stems that I have picked. We have parsley stems. Fennel fronds are a very popular one here because I can never make enough salad with fennel fronds. Celery bits, celery feet. We have garlic that's starting to sprout, carrot peel, shallot butts, and I mean it goes on. Onion heads. And same to this side here. You'll notice this one has a Parmesan rind. I always buy my Parmesan chunk with the rinds because I think it adds so much flavor to a stock, so I use it that way. And same with bacon. I always buy my bacon with skin because that adds just this amazing smokiness to your stock. The bacon skin is a meat byproduct, but because it is fully cured, I'm just gonna keep it in the vegetable section as it doesn't need to cook any longer in the oven like the other meat bits may need to. So those are the vegetables. I'm gonna do one pot for my chicken stock and one pot for my pork and beef. And the only vegetable I'll be adding to this are a couple onions. These onions just add a really nice flavor to your stocks. So I'm probably gonna add 2 whole onion Don't need to peel them or anything. Slice in half. 2 whole onions per stock. And that is it for the veggie bits. Nothing else is going in there, and I'll be waiting for my meat to be done roasting to add it to this, and that's it. Okay, so now onto a very important step, which is going to be, we'll take the bones and we'll put them in the pot. Actually, I thought my big pot was going to be for beef and pork, but it's actually not. Okay, and don't forget this fat, don't toss it. This is going to give so much flavor to your stock. And the reason I didn't use any parchment paper, I'll show you in a second. I'm doing the same thing. Look at these little leggies. We're transitioning from a metal tool to a wooden tool. There's a reason for that, is we're gonna do this thing called deglazing the pans. Not a lot of people tell you about, but this is really gonna bring a lot of flavor to your stock. So you just put your little trays over the heat like this, and this is the #1 reason why my trays are looking so fucked up, is because I do that all the time. But I think the flavor is worth fucking up some pans. So then I just do a little bit of water, and then just gently over the fire. Don't burn your towel, don't burn your hand. Scrape away all those good bits. Look, already like this is already looking like a stock. You can see like the deep flavor from it, the deep color. And this also really helps cleaning the pan, and it's all going in here. Look at this. And that's it. On to the next one. All right, so everything is in our pots and we've covered it with cold water. The reason why you're starting with cold water is you're extracting as much flavor out of the bones and out of the veggies, going from cold to hot. Very similar to the process of boiling potatoes, where you would start with cold water, and that way it extracts as much starch out of the potato. So when it comes up to a boil, we'll bring it back down to a simmer, and we'll check in about 4 hours for the chicken. Just make sure if you see the water level being too low underneath the bones, you add some fresh water just so it's up above the bone. So I will check back in with you later. Alright, so my chicken stock has now been going for 4 full hours, and I forgot to say earlier, but I always add a little bit of nice sea salt to it. It's not to season it, but it's just to add some of those mineral qualities to it. So I do that, and now that I've tasted it, it's came to the point where the flavor from the meat and the flavor from the veggies are meeting at this very high point. Lots of sweetness, lots of depth of flavor. And then once you start passing that point, it's all downhill for the protein flavors and for the veggie flavors. So you really want to meet kind of that sweet spot. Keep tasting as you go. So now we are ready to strain the chicken stock. Straining it, this is really fun. This is when you get to use the oversized equipment in the kitchen. And go. So this is it. It's just straining, and I'm only gonna use 1 strainer. I'm not gonna fuss around and double strain it unless there's like some really huge chunks in there. Because it's now a meat byproduct, I'm gonna, once it's fully strained, I'm gonna containerize it in like deli cups, and I'm gonna ice it. Because it's a meat byproduct now, you have to take care of it a little bit more, and you wanna take it down below 40 degrees or so as soon as possible, so it has a longer lifespan.
Shelf life.
It has a much longer shelf life. Carefully handled meat byproducts have a much longer shelf life. That's it. I think that's what we got. All right, so the chicken stock is finalized. It's really delicious, and there is one more thing I forgot to say, is in terms of skimming stocks, which is a very common term used for when you make the stocks, you remove the fat particles and all that from the top, which is not something I do. And I strongly believe that keeping the fat on participates into giving a ton of flavor to stocks. So this is why you can see fat sitting on top of all my stocks, and it's something I really adore to taste and eat. The beef stock is also going to go for 4 more hours. It's larger bones, so it's taking a lot more time to cook and a lot more time to release all the goodness into the stock. So I'm gonna do that later in 4 hours, and it's the exact same process of the straining and process of icing and then storing away. So I'm freezing these stocks, and let me know if you want me to make some more videos on just how I straight up use the stocks. So like and subscribe and share and all that good stuff, and I'll see you next week.